Okay, so this is the format I'm going to use to review the books that I read as part of edureading, or just generally speaking for personal interest, books about education. So I've got 7 points, kind of a rough structure to give me a bit of idea of how to do it. Most importantly, I'm comparing these educational books to self-help books, popular science, and just sort of popular psychology kind of books as well. So I'm applying the same criteria really of expectations that you would to any book in the fact that it's readable, enjoyable, entertaining, as well as all the other things that you expect an educational research-based book to be teaching you things or explaining things. I think they're very similar self-help books and teaching books, just focused on a different aspect of your life. And so as such, these are the expectations that I place on these books. So firstly, I think a good educational book should comment or create a type of schema or a sort of way of thinking about something. A famous example would be something like 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It's clearly going to be 7 things, and they're going to be very straightforward and clear. Something like, say, Tipping Point is a good analogy, something to get you thinking, something that explains and encapsulates the book. Obviously, this is something that educational books often struggle with, as they're sort of based in academic research often, and that's not something that's required to provide a schema necessarily. So that's the first point. The second thing is just the arguments or the points that are being made, whether I find them interesting, compelling, agreeable or disagreeable, how well they're supported, and so forth. The third is what I think is the most important, the illustrations and the examples. I feel that with educational books, more or less the same as self-help books, it's not the actual arguments or the points that you've never heard before. At a certain level, we all know what good teaching is, but then we spend a great deal of our time trying to improve upon it, and it becomes something that's habit-based. So just with self-help, it's about trying to break habits or improve understanding to allow that to happen. I feel that's true for educational reading as well. And so the most interesting part is the illustrations and the examples that make the points or the ideas that you're being presented with most clear, most cogent. Then I'll just say the audience and who I might recommend such a book to. Then any omissions or questions that I had, things that I felt were missing, lacking, or things that weren't addressed as clearly as I would like. Number 6 is our highlights. If there's too many, I'll make a separate video, and kind of as a way of consolidating what I've learnt and read, and also just as a way to give you some taste of what the book might be like. So more often than not, I think I'll separate this out from the book, unless I avoid giving any highlights at all based on the book not lending itself to that, let's say. And now I'll just give it a score out of 5, using maybe, let's say, stars and including half stars. So this is a system I'm going to use to review the books that I read. Feel free to use this format or not, read the books that I'm reading or not, and contact me on Twitter or speak to me in person about any of these books that you've thought, and tell me what you thought about them. I'm very interested to see how we as a profession can interact with educational books.